Kia ora viewers, welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Strategy. Today I'm joined by someone whose work sits at the intersection of purpose, people and career growth, Rosey Nathan. Rosey is the early career and development manager at the Blues Charitable Trust, where she supports Rangatahi or the young generation across the wider Blues region. She's also the founder of Advovation, a consultancy focused on career strategy, LinkedIn optimization, and mentoring for clarity and confidence. Rosey, welcome to the show. It's a real pleasure to have you here.
It's such a pleasure to be here today and to be on the other side. I do love being a guest and not having to host anymore.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Rosey. Lovely. So let's quickly jump to our question answer session. As you know, we have a five-segment session that we'll run. So starting with the first segment, that is called the work that matters. So Rosey, the first question that is on my list is, what led you to your current role at Blues Charitable Trust?
Yeah, great question, because it wasn't an obvious next step for me. I am not a big sports head. Wasn't I love watching the All Blacks, but not necessarily that involved with rugby. So getting involved in an association so close to a high performance sports team wasn't a logical step. What happened was I was at a networking event for the Institute of Managers and Leaders. So one of the lunch and learn sessions, and you just never know who you're going to run into when you are at such events. I met this amazing gentleman called Rob Woodley and was introduced to him and was immediately impressed. So he has an Order of the New Zealand Merit for services to youth from his time in the police and had just finished a master's in advanced leadership. So, lots of great things that I thought I could have a chat with him about. He asked me what I did, and I talked a bit about the recruitment work that I was doing at the time, but also the Advation business, how I'd been involved in career mentorship for nearly a decade now. And for him, that kind of made sense because he was looking for a career coach. So he asked if I'd like to come in for a cup of coffee at Blues HQ. And I went along thinking I was going to help him recruit for the role. And he was in that meeting kind of already with the foresight that he wanted me to join the Blues Charitable Trust. So long story short, it was one of those situations where, going through the due diligence, because they did have a process ongoing at that time. I think there were around 160 people that had applied for the job that were really interested, obviously, in all those intersections. But the great thing for me was that I knew I could add value and purpose in a completely different way because my experience was so different from everybody else involved in the wider organisation. And so what I had to bring to support rangatahi who were really uncertain about what to do after school and help them find confidence through leadership, but also understanding the chasm that there was developing with new entries into the workplace, that was a position that I could really speak to authentically and ensure that, I could help. So through the interview process, the more that I met with people involved, the more I realised that everyone there was exceptional. So, I was very lucky to start off working 3 days a week and still being able to work through Advation, and now I'm on 4 days a week and still doing lots of mentoring work on the side. So I think it's great being able to get that balance and that view from quite a few different perspectives and in very intense periods. So from February to May we delivered our Blues Charitable Trust flagship program to over 400 rangatahi from Cape Reinga down to South Auckland. So it's been a really intensive period where we had 3 cohorts come in and deliver this 4-week program to each of those 3 cohorts, and have the mentor with complete just being completely blank in terms of what they could learn, and then leaving with a huge amount of confidence and really understanding their own why and kind of a little bit more about their types of personalities and behaviours and what they can lean into for strategy in the future for themselves.
100%. And wow, what a journey. Thank you for sharing that story, Rosie. This is really inspiring, and especially mentoring to a cause. That's something we all should learn as well. So
Yeah.
beautiful journey. Lovely. Thanks for that, Rosie. Jumping to the next question is, you mentioned about being the leader of Advovation. So what sparked the idea behind Advovation?
Yeah, thanks. I started a social enterprise quite a few years ago, so nearly a decade ago, and that was more about being able to give back because I had not come from a position of privilege or even that many great role models in my own background. So I had reached a point in my career where I wanted to start enabling others that wanted to mentor and give back from their experiences to those that were entering into the workforce or that may have hit a bit of a ceiling and didn't know how to get past that. So it was really focused mostly on young women, and that was called infantpos.com for Infinite Possibilities. And so worked with a great circle of women around that focus. I shifted into a different role full time, and then I didn't have the capacity to completely manage that social enterprise myself. And so I moved into her career with Michaela Hopkins, and we were doing, exactly the same thing. So I was really happy to bring all of that experience from my own social enterprise and kind of systems I developed and take that to her career, which was again very female focused, but it wasn't entrepreneurial. So women that were inside a business but with an entrepreneurial mindset, and they wanted to deliver and kind of be able to feel like they owned those portions of the business. So both of those things laid the foundation for really this ongoing development. So from her career, when Michaela secured her role at Tracksuit, and she's been doing amazing things there since. Again, kind of a bandwidth thing. Her career stopped, and I opened Rosey on Recruitment and Career, which is where I had my own podcast and was doing, still a lot of mentorship. And then really I wanted to go through a bit of a rebrand, a refresh, and I was thinking about what it is that I actually do, what I deliver into those mentees' lives that I work with. And so the idea of the name of Advovation came around, which I know is, it's one of those names. It's like, how do I actually say that? What does it mean? But it is a combination of, being an advocate for your own brand, whether that's your personal brand or your company brand, and then innovating for your future or your career. So Advovation is really a mix of those two things, which brings together everything that I've done, not just in that mentoring space, but kind of the years that I've had in sales and leadership and marketing and recruitment, and just bringing it all together so that I can work with clients who, they might either be entering or coming out of university. I get a lot of those types of mentees, but also increasingly a lot of executives that want to be able to reposition or tell their story in a way that makes sense to recruiters, because there can be a lot of history there. So it's nice to have this diversity and be able to use my skill set in a way that allows others to shine in their story, because we get very emotionally tied up in kind of what's important. And so when we present it, there's lots of white noise and people get confused about the story that we're telling. So it's much easier for me. Like, it would probably be easier for somebody else to tell my story, because I do the same thing as well. We're all guilty of it. But being able to, help people shine in their own articulation, and then once they understand what that looks like, they can be really confident in how they share that with the world.
It's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Rosie. Next is, in your view, what makes career strategy different from, general life coaching or maybe job preparations?
Yeah, that's a great question, I think. And it is interesting because career is so much of what we do, and we can feel really tied to that as well. But I think the thing about career is there are choices that can be made that can can come from different places within us, you know, so we have different seasons through our life as well. And I feel that our career should be able to match that in ways that are authentic to where we are in that journey. But life is everything, it's all encompassing, it's bigger. So, you know, when you're thinking of it from a life coach perspective, and I have been pulled that way sometimes with some of my clients, and we acknowledge that, we talk through it, that it isn't just kind of a focus on their career, then you're taking into account so much more of holistically who you are and what's important to you. But with career, you know, there are times where you have to be really focused and really specific about, okay, what are the pros and cons, and exactly how is that going to fit, and what does that mean? You know, you could be working in an organization and loving the work, and financially you've taken a hit, because that's okay. Like, that's kind of a different question and perspective and strategy than what you might be looking at for your life perspective. So it's getting that priority right and understanding where that fits. Is that across the career? Like, what's your top and bottom requirements or alignment? And then, you know, how much will that impact your lifestyle and your opportunities and your future development? But I think that they're very interlinked. So there is a wee bit of holistic strategy that needs to take part for both of them, but you can be, you know, just that view of career, it can be really focused. So you should let it be.
Thank you for that. And like driving from what we were talking about strategy to the next segment of our session, which is strategy in real life. So the
Yeah.
first question in this segment is, how do you help others make aligned decisions when they are feeling stuck or unclear?
Yeah. Um, so I've got a little method that I use with my mentees, and it's very self-servingly. It's called the Rosey method, so that people remember who I am. And that's spelled Rosey, not Rosie. So it's got a nice little acronym. So it's allowing you to start with R, which is to reflect. So there's an opportunity for you to sit down and really reflect on the things that are important, what needs to happen, what you are, you know, root causes of things. That reflection can really help to surface all of that. Next, we have O, which is kind of this observation. So it is a wide area around, what's happening in the environment and what is important, what you need to be observing to make the next steps. And then there is S for strategy. So, of course, important in this segment. So strategizing is taking all of that brainstorming. You know, you've had your reflection and your observation. So it's kind of brainstorm and prioritize time, making sure that you understand and have some clear paths. You know, what are the options? Really putting that all together and having it in one place. And then we move on to the execution or implementation. So that execution piece is you need to take action, but you also need to have a really clear and defined view of what that would be, because so many problems that we have surface from the fact that there is indecision and we get stuck in strategizing. So, you know, that's a key item. Let's talk strategy, but we also have to ensure that we execute at some stage. And then the last letter, which is Y, is for yes, you can, because we all need a little bit of celebration to, you know, pat ourselves on the back and go, okay, well, that was a difficult thing, or yes, I met that strategic point and the objectives were reached, or okay, well, I learned a lesson. Yes, I learned a lesson. So just thinking about that whole Rosey segment allows you to step back from any situation. And I've used that not just in mentorship, but, you know, for overall strategy review, for learning and development, for implementation into teams, because if everybody uses that method and they follow it and they bring their own perspective, you get a lot of insights. So it then allows you to kind of look at the entirety and make sure that you've got that complete view.
That is amazing. Thank you. Thank you for a detailed description. That's really cool. Awesome. Jumping from the acronym Rosie to the real life Rosie again. Next is, can you share an example when strategy that helped you, or, you know, someone you guided to navigate a major decision in their life?
Yeah, I like to talk. I think I already mentioned around, some of the work I did early on in my career has been quite female focused. And then there's also a lot of work I'm doing now, which is based on rangatahi and kind of youth and that development. And I think one area that a lot of my mentees have struggled in and that strategy and that view kind of helps with is where women have been returning to the workforce after having children, or they may have had a separation in a marriage. And quite regularly, women in that area might feel imposter syndrome or have a lower level of confidence within themselves. So, really understanding how to enable them, first of all, with some empathy and some kindness and kind of just a mirror view of showing them the value that they have, but having them explore that, taking those conversations which enable them to explore kind of the strengths that they hide from themselves. And this is applicable really to anybody. So many of us will undersell our natural skills and talents. And so being able to share that with our teens in this mentorship and say, look, things that you're naturally good at, or people say, hey, you've got a natural inclination for that, start to really focus on that and make lists and understand how to articulate it in different situations so you can talk about transferable skills if things change or go wrong. So yeah, a lot of those sessions have been with those types of mothers or newly single people who have returned to the workforce and really refound that confidence. They've been able to go, actually, yeah, I deserve to be here. And we put strategy around building that confidence, about really feeling like you have this value. And when we go to work, everyone's just trying to do the best job that they can. And so a lot of the time it is just really recognizing that and making space for it, and understanding that people will help you if you ask for it, and if you know how to ask for it in the right way. So sometimes people are like, I need help with kind of my workload, which is just not specific enough. I've got a project that's due on Wednesday afternoon and I need some help with this one section. Can you help? As something that is actionable. So if we talk about, again, like that's a strategic view of asking for help, and we break things down to that level, then, we are able to work together and collaborate in really good ways.
That is amazing. And to draw one thought out is it more bringing clarity to the thoughts of others, or how does that work?
Yeah, I'm kind of an organic mentor. So I always say in my first sessions, I do let my clients know that I'm not somebody that will, um, you know, make them do things and say that this is the only way, because I'm a huge believer in the fact that we find new and interesting ways to deliver, and sometimes we surprise ourselves with how exceptional we can be when we have some of those liberties provided to ourselves. So a lot of that clarity will come from just enabling my client to kind of give me an idea of where they're at, and then challenging some of the perspectives that they already have, like some of the stories that they've told themselves, because our truths are based on the stories that we believe that we've told ourselves. So once I kind of challenge a couple of those, and we dig into some of those conversations. So in terms of my mentorship, I record meetings like this, and then I will send a summary along with a recording of the meeting. And I quite often will say to my clients, I'm like, look at kind of around minute 11, like look at how your body language changes and how your interaction or the way that you speak about that changes. Like, people will light up or they'll kind of dim down depending on what they speak about. And we don't often get to see that in ourselves. So I think clarity also comes from kind of this awareness of how we are interacting with the world and kind of what those subjects are that can challenge us in positive and negative ways. So yeah, it's very much an organic, collaborative session when I'm working with my clients, and I really want them to have these moments of discovery and aha with me, but then it's 100% up to them as to how they apply it, or even if they want to apply that in their own real life settings.
That is amazing. And speaking of perspectives, as I mentioned earlier, that brings us to our next segment. The segment is sector perspectives. This is quite an interesting one because this is more relevant to our viewers. They will understand how they can actually approach to different segments as well. So the first question is, you've worked across recruitment, education, tech. So what is that one unique insight from all that you've gained and you can share with others?
Yeah, that people are people. So people will surprise you and in good ways and in kind of challenging ways. So the best thing that you can do is seek clarity around anything that you have made assumptions around particularly or that is unclear. So I've seen lots of different projects and lots of interactions turn south because there was a misalignment early on that just was not rectified. So regardless of if you're working with small clients or large clients or big projects or small projects, there are other people involved. And so being able to have that communication and understanding who is responsible for what, like really having that plan, that's important. But yeah, it's finding the other thing about, people, it's finding really good glue is what I like to call them. So people that can bring others together. And, we've hopefully all worked with somebody like this, those people that can challenge, but in a way that enables everybody to be really transparent and open and for the good of collaboration and best output. So, if you've got a whole bunch of people that, and no glue, then that can be a really difficult situation. You can feel lots more friction than would otherwise be necessary. So, it's kind of what can we do to take egos out of conversations to really focus on why we're here, what's the objective, what can we achieve, what can we best output together. Then we start working a little bit better.
100% agreed on that. As they say that it is the people who makes an organization working best. So 100% agreed on your thought on that. Lovely. Next question is, now what are some common strategic mistakes hiring managers or founders make, which you've observed as well, and especially when they're working quite early in their stages?
Yeah, I think the biggest mistake I see any hirer and even recruitment people make is taking the historical information over potential and over attitude. So you can see some people that have done some pretty amazing work and they might have reached certain calibers, but if they are toxic in the workplace, then there is such a cost to pay for that. And what toxicity means is dependent on your work environment and dependent on the industry. But there is so much potential in somebody with a great attitude and a continuous learning, curious growth mindset that has not yet been realized. And so in the right environment, those people will walk over hot lava to make things work. And I've seen it time and time again. And we see it in so many places, people that shouldn't be as successful as they are, but they've had a lucky break and they've gotten to that place. And all that a lot of people need is a lucky break. It's I know it's a difficult thing to say because when you are a hiring manager yourself, you've got one role and you might have 150, 300 applicants, depending on the caliber of role and what level it's at. But what's really going to work in terms of galvanizing your people and being inspirational to them and having somebody that is really aligned to what senior leadership truly believe in, not just, words on the wall. So I think they just need to take all of that into account, like where are the gaps really? And trying to bring a little bit more heart to any team is something I think is really important. So, people that have that, again, good glue essence.
So thank you for that. Now, if you can just change one thing about how the recruitment industry operates currently, what would that be?
Yeah. Oh my God. I mean, it's the recruitment industry as a whole is very interesting because processes and application types are varied, and we're seeing lots of disruption happening at the moment around, how to connect a candidate to a hiring manager or hiring organization. And I think there's been lots of iterations around that. I was lucky enough to work at Customized Talent Partners, CTP, where we were a small boutique organization, and like it really was very much understanding our clients, understanding our candidates, getting really personal, and we would just consistently be horrified by the fact that other recruiters were placing these really high level roles and not even meeting candidates, not really understanding who they were, not really getting insights from their own networks for credentials. But not really looking at, again, potential, which is one of those things that I've consistently been able to work with companies around. So that transferable skills piece, I think, because I've worked across a lot of different industries, if a candidate understands exactly what their strengths are, so mine were a lot around, understanding sales problems or understanding problems in general that were complex and breaking those down and working with lots of different people across organizations, stakeholder levels. So that can be transferred a number of different places. And then training, doing a lot of training. So I could articulate that and take that other places. I think that recruiters would do a much better job if they could educate their candidates more. I know we certainly, provided great feedback for our candidates to be able to improve interview on interview. And I think it was just a testament to my time there that I had so many candidates who weren't successful, in a process, come back to me and say they were so grateful for being in process with me because they were now able to interview better and they felt really confident through the interview process. So I think it's just about where is this care? I know for recruiters, it's organizations that pay the bills, but we want to rise the tide amongst every professional across Aotearoa, New Zealand. So there's a responsibility in that area. And I know that, there are industry bodies that are doing great things and connecting our recruiters. And, certainly there's lots of fantastic people out there in the industry. I don't know that answered your question about there being one thing to change, but I just wanted to give a bit more context because the recruitment process for a number of candidates at the moment, particularly with so many people having gone through redundancy or disestablishment, they are feeling very much like a number. And so it's and some recruiters make them feel even more so like that. So really search for those recruiters that understand and will support and advocate them, and just keep heads up.
What a beautiful advice. Thank you so much, Rosie. This is going really well. So that's amazing. Lovely. So this is time for segment 4, which is tools, habits, and alignment. So, Rosie, the first question in this segment is, what's that one habit or daily practice that keeps you stay aligned with your purpose?
Yeah, I think just connecting with somebody important to me is something on a daily basis that allows me to focus on kind of why we're here. That's the biggest purpose behind anything. So there's lots of little pieces in my day and people I interact with that remind me about the value that I can add in a very unique way, even when you're kind of doubting it yourself. But finding those little moments, finding those things that get you back to your best you, even or particularly when you're not feeling it, or if there's something else that's come up, or you've had a challenge or a loss, then being able to really lean into that. Finding moments of comfort completely away from that as well is important. Like I have a dog that I adore, and so spending time just curled up on a bed and watching a episode of MasterChef with him is kind of that is as important for my mental well-being as anything is important to my professional well-being. So I think it's being able to understand where you are in your own cycle and rhythm, and what's important at that stage to reconnect with, so that you can be and deliver your best self in the times and spaces that you really need to.
100%. And that definitely helps you stay grounded during overwhelming times as well. So thank you for that. Lovely. Next is how do you personally balance structure and intuition while making strategic choices?
Yeah. I'm very much an intuition person. So there's lots of kind of, I feel that in my gut that happens with me. I think again, it goes back to kind of that Rosey methodology, because if I have an overwhelming intuition, there's probably a reason why, but what might I be missing? What could potentially be in my blind spots? So if I put the method to work, then it helps me with some sort of structure around decision making, or around kind of the next steps and decisions, because the execute's right there. Um, and if I, reflect around what is it that's making me feel this way, then and identifying that root cause, it kind of helps with the intuition piece as well. So I think, yeah, it just brings perspective, and it helps to put things at arm's length when the emotion is high, or if stakes are personal, because it's really difficult to get that perspective. So, it's kind of, I think of it as clarity without cutting off that gut sense that I know I should still trust.
Amazing. Great. That's really lovely. Thank you so much, Rosie. And that brings us to the last segment or the last round of our show, which is the rapid fire round. Really fast, really hasty. So, CV or LinkedIn, which matters more and why?
Yeah, I think they both have a place, obviously, but LinkedIn is a moving, breathing document. It's dynamic. It's your salesperson when you're not available. So your CV should have people curious enough about you to stalk you a bit on LinkedIn, and then you should give them more information and more human version of you. And sometimes clients go, "Oh, that's too much to put on LinkedIn," and my response to that is, well, no one's really looking, honey. Like, there's billions of people on LinkedIn. So people who are looking at your profile are looking at it for a purpose. So make it do the work for you. So yeah, I think people really underestimate the importance of their LinkedIn profile.
Thank you. Next is what's a recent moment that reminded you why you do what you do?
Oh, wow. Yeah. I think just going through the program that we've had with BCT. So those moments where we've had, there's one particular moment, a lovely young person from Northland came down, and sometimes it's hard with 16-year-olds to see if they're engaged or not. You're not really that certain if things are going in, or if they're just sitting through it. So it was a couple of days, and at the end of that 2 days, we took them to a blues game, and they were helping us and volunteering. And we asked one of the young people, kind of, did they enjoy their time? Was it okay? Did they have any takeaways? And he turned around and he said to our general manager, this is the happiest I've ever been. And it's hard because you don't always know that impact. And I think that's something that we all need to take away. We don't know the impact of both our positive words, but also, there's lots of keyboard warrioring going around, and I'm certainly more aware of it now that I'm much closer to an organization like the Blues. Like, so much happening on social media about what people should or shouldn't do. And I just like that impact, and what I didn't have that when I was 16. I didn't have a program like this that cared enough to kind of help me through next steps, but also cared enough to connect me with others at different schools, to build networks before I went out into the big bad world. And so there's I felt a lot of vulnerability in this year, because it's kind of taken me back to a place that wasn't the best place for me growing up between 16 and 20. And so every day I walk into a room of kind of 40 to 50 kids, I'm reminded that the things that we do are impactful. And even if one kid goes away and they're able to have confidence because of something we said, or feel like they're good enough to apply for something and go on the STREAM career journey, then that's extraordinary. What a gift for me.
Amazing. And definitely good times are here. So awesome. Lovely. Next is this is a very interesting one. One song which is on the top of your playlist currently.
Oh my goodness. I am a very eclectic listener. I don't no one should listen to my stuff. On Spotify I have something called the BCT mix, which is what I or BCT mix, which is what I play to the kids, and that's everything from like Elton John and Tom Jones through to Dua Lipa and but there's no swearing because they're 16. True Drax Projects and Dane Rumble and Nation Mystic and so it's very eclectic, and I kind of feel in those musical breaks with the kids I want to help to expose them maybe to music they hadn't heard before. So I don't have a single song. I'm a very big Sam Smith fan, and Adele of course, but yeah, I listen to lots of different things.
Amazing. And the last question, Rosie, is if you weren't doing what you do right now, what would you be doing?
Oh, I love this because we talk about dream jobs so much with our kids. I mean, I'd love to be a Formula One driver. That would be, I mean, I love to watch Drive to Survive, but there's also so much politics involved in that too, so maybe not. Or a rock star, that would be great. I think the window for both of those has closed, unfortunately. But I genuinely, I got asked this question by one of our students, and they were like, "You've done lots of jobs. What's the best job you've ever had?" And I was like, literally this one, because I have the variety. So, it's everything I've kind of ever done, but with people who have genuine care and heart. And I still get to do all of the cool stuff like, work on government negotiations and have stakeholder and partnership discussions and, look for funding, but deliver to audiences and and still do some of my own work. So I guess just getting back into a little bit more speaking is probably the only thing I would enjoy doing a bit more of, but I am in my dream job for sure.
That is beautiful. And not a lot of people can actually say that. So kudos to
No,
that.
I know. I'm very lucky.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This brings us to the end of our show. Let's talk strategy. Rosie, thank you so much for joining us. Your approach to values aligned strategy, especially when it comes to careers, rangatahi, and mentoring, is incredibly refreshing. I know many of our listeners will take away something personal and powerful from this episode. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Anko. It's been such a pleasure to be here, and I love the work that you're doing. So keep on going.
Thank you so much. Also, to everyone tuning in, thank you so much for joining us. For more such incredible stories, don't forget to share this episode or drop your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, keep learning, keep building, and keep talking strategy. This is Let's Talk Strategy. Thank you so much.